welcome to Last Week On. My name is Adam Straughan, and we are back covering Invincible, Season 3, Episode 4, You Were My Hero. But I mean, the way things are going right now, it could be White Lotus Season 3, it could be Yellow Jacket Season 3, it's all happening at the same time.
I didn't even notice that. Yeah, we're all season threes are going at the same time. It's not
I
even
know,
the same
right?
year. It's all like the same within the same time frame.
2025 is the year of Season 3, like it's all happening. What's going on? But
Yeah.
obviously, before I get into that, I have a very special guest who's come back to join me to cover this episode. So he is the co-host of My Bloody Judy, and if you type in AZB on YouTube as well, you will see his face. Please welcome back to the podcast, everybody, my friend Zachary Patton Garcia. How are you doing, Zach?
Howdy, howdy. I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about this. Have you do you watch White Lotus? Have you
Yeah,
started that?
yeah.
Okay. I just can't. I think I'm gonna wait till it's all out. I don't. Yeah, I'm not. I don't think I'm gonna be a week to weeker for this
Oh,
for
you
this
you
season.
think so? Yeah, I
Too
don't know
many
what it,
shows going on at once. I just can't. I can't keep up with it all.
I know, right? Like literally, it's all happening, and like normally I like a week to weeker as well, but it depends on the show. Like Severance is like killing
Yeah.
me right now because I just want to like know more about it, and yet like every single week I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, this big cliffhanger, and then I have to get on to the next one. And now Yellow Jackets has just started, as I say, so it's like all happening at the same time. So I'm like, wait, what
Mhm.
was going on here? What's going on there? Um,
We're starting Yellow Jackets again, and Yellow Jackets is like one of those shows that is also too. It's too long between seasons, and at this
yeah.
point, I'm like, they're gonna end up losing me. I love the show, but I'm gonna end up at some point just kind of checking out and going back into it when there's a couple more seasons up on streaming. That
Hmm.
way, I can do them back to back because it is very hard to keep track of all of the information. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
I feel
At
that.
least with White Lotus, it's like they're different stories, right? They're
Right.
individual stories. So
Exactly. So like if you jump in here, like there might be a few little references, but like it's not groundbreaking where if you don't get it, it doesn't really matter.
yeah.
But yeah, but White Lotus, it's like the same with Invincible a little bit, like with that massive gap in between like season two and then between seasons two and three, season one as well. It was
Mhm.
like, Jesus, like what's going on? But yeah, like I'm so pleased this is just more like right, bam, bam, bam. We've had the first three episodes together. We've had
Yeah.
it's episode four now, and it just feels a lot better, man.
Yeah. So with Invincible, it's like much easier because uh the first episode was a little bit worried, right? Because they were packing in a lot and they were bringing in a lot of like older characters, and I was like, oh shit, I hope I'm not having to like keep up with all of this. That I'm gonna have to keep up with the first two seasons like really detailed. But the episode two, three, and four, they seem to be like the stories are pretty concise. We're to the point. We're not introducing a whole bunch. We don't have too much going on, so it's been
Right.
a lot easier to follow, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, same. Like it's yeah, as I say, like the first episode was like more kind of like welcome back to like the
Mhm.
show. And then like these two like episodes two, three, and four, really like everything's just ramped up in terms of like stakes. So like, everything that's happening with Oliver now. And then like this episode, like we've got like, stuff that's happening with Omniman. And then
Mhm.
like, now we've got this new relationship that Mark's in. Mark's kind of fractured some relationships that he's in as well. But like one thing I will say, like I'm loving what the direction where the show is going. I love the drama. I love the darkness that's coming in. But one thing that I'm a little bit like, all right, like I get the point,
Mhm.
is like how much they're laboring this point of where like Mark needs to learn like not everything is black and white. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I get it. Like, episode two, it was all about like, Cecil pointed out to Mark when he was like, look, you did bad things as well. Does that mean that you should be locked up? And like, and now like the episode after that, like with Oliver, it's like now he's learning, oh, well, Oliver's like doing bad things. Does that mean that he needs to be locked up? And then like, then this episode as well,
They
it's like
do it
again, like, oh,
again.
you went yeah, with Immortal, oh, Immortal's done some horrendous things. Should he be locked up as well? So it's like, I get it. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I get what they're trying to teach Mark here, but like, come on, like let's speed along,
It
let's
seems
catch up.
like it's the
So I'm
overall
just looking forward to
theme.
the point.
Yeah, it seems like it's the overall
Yeah,
theme,
yeah,
and I like it, but I think I kind of agree with you is that I don't want every episode to then be a lesson on like being morally
yeah,
gray and whether that's the right way to go, or if you
yeah,
should stick to the light or if you should stick to the dark. Every episode doesn't need to be that. So I'm hoping like after this one, because I think this was a good example of it. But after this one, we've got
yeah.
to start making I'm hoping that he has to start making more decisions, right? And I think this could be the beginning of it because of what
Mm,
does happen with the immortal, and we'll get to that. Um but then, yeah,
yeah.
let's start building on that instead of just repeating the same lesson.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, like, yes, Mark isn't like the most intelligent person in the world, but like he's got the experience to learn from. So like to labor this like learning experience, he's been through it. Like, do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like he's quick enough to catch on to what's going on here. And we will see a change in Mark, obviously. I'm just looking forward to, like, as you said, not having that lesson like with every single episode. But speaking of the last episode, Zach, obviously episode 3, what were your kind of general thoughts of that? Because I know you just watched that and episode
Yeah,
4
so
back to
they're
back, right?
blending a little in my brain. So the last episode was the one where we're getting a lot more questions about Oliver, right? That was the big Oliver episode.
Yes.
So okay,
Yes, with the
I
Mauler
I know this
twins.
shit is
Yeah.
coming. I knew this shit was coming. That it's
You
gonna
called
be
it. You
it will
called
be
it.
Mark versus Oliver. I like
Mhm.
fully see it coming. But then they're also with this episode introducing Nolan again, and so I'm guessing Nolan's going to come back into the fold. And is he going to have to pick a
Mhm.
son? Is he going to have to take a side? Is he going to be the one to calm them down? Like, what is going to happen? But I am very much looking forward to the like brother on brother battle because like
Yes.
Oliver is going to grow up pretty damn soon. He's not going to stay this age much longer, and it's I don't know his world outlook is he's challenging, you know. So
Yeah. And it's like, it's kind of like I hinted towards this a little bit in the episode I was talking with Ian as well, where like with Mark, like, he's part human, part Viltrumite, right?
mhm.
So like he's still got that human side, that human moral compass. With Oliver, it's like Thraxan and Viltrumite. And like that mixture together, who knows what their moral we've kind of seen some of the Viltrumite and like they don't really have any moral code at all, except
Mhm.
for Nolan, who seems to be the standout with that. But like the Thraxans, like, yeah, we saw like their planet and such, but like this combination of DNA together, we have no idea. And like, we saw what he did to the Molar twins, and he's like, well, they were bad, so they needed to die. So
Yeah.
it's like that's his outlook now. Like anyone that double crosses him or his family, they're just dead. Like anyone that even looks at him the wrong way,
Mhm.
dead. So it's like it's going to be interesting how he handles that, how Devi handles that. But obviously, as you said, when Omniman does come back, like where he's going to sit on that, right? Because they're both his sons.
Yeah.
So like, it'll be interesting to see him in
It
the
is going
middle
to
of
be
this kind of
interesting.
conflict.
I could see that being like
Yeah.
part of like the finale of the season, and then we have to wait till next season. The twins,
Right.
yeah, we can go into it, I guess. Or wait, the twins were last episode, right? Okay, so the twins.
Yes, and the Molar Twins are episode 3, yeah.
So I don't remember. Were they copies of the original twins? Because I know that there
It's
were like
it's
alternates brought in. So these were the alternates.
So there's always like a thing where there's like always the original and then there's the copy. So like
Mhm.
these are like third generation of that now
Okay.
from what we've seen. And even before that, who knows how many
Yeah.
we've had prior to the show. So like, yeah.
I appreciate that because I do really enjoy them. I think they are
Yeah.
so fun to watch, and I like them
Yes.
being they're villains, but they're not world-ending villains. Even though they do try to do world-ending stuff sometimes, they're brought in.
Right.
They're kind of fan favorites at this point, and so
Yeah.
I don't ever want them to like really die. Just bring in new ones and just keep recycling them.
Yeah, fair. Because they're just so charismatic, and that's what
Mhm.
I like about them. Like they're just fun. Like when they're on screen, I don't get bored by them. I like to see them like, rough up Mark and shit and like go
Yeah.
down. But I liked this as well, seeing like them scared for the first time, like of Oliver. So like when, one of them was backing off and saying like I surrender when like half of his face was over here.
Yeah.
Like, to walk away from such a small child and be afraid like that was like again another interesting dynamic of the
Mhm.
Mauler twins, who normally are like so shit hot, like are so like on the money with everything. So it was cool to see that dynamic with them, definitely. But no, I like them. It's good to see them,
Yeah.
and they keep doing this, so they keep bringing back other characters. Like the opening of that episode was like one of the saddest things ever with them two
Yeah.
guys, right? Like going through that whole like that thing, and those were just from like season 1, like to bring them back as well, and. Obviously, in this episode, we get a big fan favorite who's brought back from season 1 again, which obviously we'll get to when we get to the prison, because he's a big fan favorite. But
Mhm.
but yeah, let's jump into this one, Zach. I'm excited because this for me
Perfect.
is like this is maybe my favorite episode. I love
Oh, is it?
this, but
Mm.
yeah, yeah, maybe. But let's get into it. So the episode opens on Rex and Ray. We see they're getting a little bit closer. They're obviously out shopping. Like Ray wants to make like the Guardians dinner. Rex is talking about how he used to steal like Robot's credit card and just used to like order pizza and shit all the time, which is very Rex code. He's finding the whole thing boring. He's like, I just used to order this shit like on his credit card, whatever. And then Rex is obviously hesitant, but then obviously he does offer to help. He says like, "Oh, I can take care of like the cow stuff," and she's like, "Don't you mean dairy?" And he's like, "Yeah, the cow stuff." He's a lovable himbo. I love
Yeah.
Rex. So like, I really have to from now.
He's fit in really nicely now too. And it's, I get it. I get where she's coming from also because they just, you know, with all of the crime fighting and saving the world, they need a little bit of normalcy, and they just want a little bit of like downtime and chill time and doing things like cooking dinner and, you know, I don't know.
Hmm.
I get her, and I felt sad for her that she was so defeated, you know, having to run into battle, and then, you know, when
Yeah.
they get back to headquarters or wherever their new headquarters is now, and she's like, ah, I guess we're fucking ordering pizza again.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That did make me laugh. I wrote that down when she's like, well, I guess we're ordering pizza. Because it is exactly that. Like, and we're seeing this with other characters, like, like where Adam Eve like wants to go and
Mm,
study, so like do stuff outside of just being a superhero. And like obviously Rhea just wants to have some type of like normal life where she's just hanging out and making food and like doing stuff that isn't just their superhero characteristic.
yeah,
And it's kind of like a parallel to the lessons that we're getting with Mark, where he's like, he just sees people as one thing. And it's like Cecil's trying to say, like said to him 1,000 times, like, you can't just see that person as this one thing.
hmm,
Like everyone's got like a shade of dark in them, a shade of light in them, and like kind of sit somewhere in the middle. And it's up to you how you kind of utilize the strongest parts of that
yeah.
person to really get the best out of them, and that's what he's trying to teach him. So it's nice we're seeing these parallels and that happen in real time with other characters as well. So as you said, like there was a fight outside. They end up coming back to it's like Team's old headquarters. I did like when in the last episode when Rex was like, we should call ourselves Rex and the Explosions, or like, and he was just
Love it,
listing all these
love
different
it.
names.
Hmm.
Because, like, let's be real, Zach. Let's be real. Like, Rex is the main star of them. Like,
He
he
is,
is. Like, he
yeah.
is the star of
He's
all of them there.
rising,
Like, yes,
and
the others are great, but like, he's the one, right?
the rest of
Yeah.
them are fine. But their personalities don't stick out the most to me. Like Monster Girl, I don't really care
Yeah.
about Monster Girl. Don't really care about Rudy. Rex is the standout, so maybe he does need a good name. They do
Yeah.
need a good name for them as a group, you know?
They do, yeah. Because I mean, Team, like, what the fuck is that? Let's be real. But like Rex and the Explosions, let's go. Like, I'd buy that album from that band. Let's do it. um, but then, yeah. So obviously, speaking of Zach's favorite, Rudy, he enters and he basically says like, "Oh, I can't get a trace on the camera." Um, they're talking about it, and then Mark straight away like jumps to this conclusion where he's like, "Oh, well, it must be Cecil. Like,
Yeah.
clearly, it's going to be Cecil. Like, he's keeping tabs on my family, with the resources that he's got. Like, it would 100% be him."
Yeah.
And then yeah, so then Mark goes to where, Zach?
He goes to what is this is the Pentagon, right? I know it's like a section of the Pentagon
Yeah, it's
or
the
a section of the Pentagon where
it's the
their
the
headquarters
GDA.
are.
Yeah,
Yes, okay, GDA. I never remember that.
yeah,
But I mean, why wouldn't he think it was Cecil in them, right? Because he knows that Cecil
exactly. Yeah,
has these little defense mechanisms, defense whatever set up against him, and that Cecil, they know that Cecil watches them. It's funny because the Grayson family does know that Cecil is watching always, but as long as that's like out of sight, out of mind. But then this thing comes in, gets really close, and is about to like blow them up. That it really infuriates Mark. But I even think that before Mark even goes into the Pentagon, that he knows it's not Cecil and them. He knows that this just doesn't make sense, but he doesn't know where else to look, and Rudy's not coming up with anything for this, and so he's gotta figure out something. So I do think that he came in subconsciously wanting to leave that thing behind because he knows that Cecil and them will figure that out, right? And when he leaves it behind, Cecil's even like,
yes,
okay, well
yeah.
let's start doing our research on this because they're going to come back together and share intel.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. Like, I think in many ways, like Mark, it's like a power play for him here, where like,
Mm.
because again, like he rocks up and he knocks all of Cecil's guards out again. And like, straight away, it's like Mark saying, like, oh, well, this must be you. And as you said, like Mark really does, he knows that Cecil is smarter than that to
Yes.
have like a camera in such an obvious place outside. As you said before, like Cecil has been watching the family for years at this point. And like the cameras, even Cecil says, like, if we were watching you, you wouldn't even know about it, which is true because they've been watching them for such a long
The house
time.
across the
And
street
I like
watching them
like
at all times. You know, it's
yeah,
they've always got surveillance going on these people.
exactly. Nothing gets past Cecil, man. But I love like when Mark's thinking about it and he gets that text message and he's just looking and Cecil's like, well, don't let us keep you. And then he's like, oh, this isn't over, Cecil, and flies off. And as you said, like, him and Donald have that conversation where they're like, this isn't our tech, of course it's not. And
Mhm.
like, if we wanted to, we are obviously watching them, but we'll find out. And as you said, it's a power play. Mark knows that the only person capable of finding that out that he knows is clearly Cecil.
Yeah.
So obviously Mark flies off because the text message is from Eve. He is running late. because he flies to meet her on their second date.
It's so nice too because they go to Paris, right?
Yeah,
This is the real Paris. This
yeah,
isn't where he had to take
yes,
Amber to fake Paris because
yeah,
she has the limitations of a human. It's not her fault, but it must be so nice to be able to go with your girlfriend to real Paris, and your girlfriend is also a superhero, and like I'm like appreciating Eve in his life a little bit more because when he does need to confide in her and he like confides about like the weight of the world on his shoulders and having to be a superhero, be a boyfriend, be, family man and all of that, rather than Amber, who's like, give me your attention. If you want to be in a relationship with me, you need to try harder. Eve understands. Eve says, you know what? We're both doing the same thing. I'm having to face these same sort of decisions, and I will probably stand you up on dates too, right? Like we can I get
yes.
it. I get it. So you're not going to get any grief from me. And when she does get frustrated, like so when they're sitting there having their wine, there's a portal that opens up next to them that the twins come through, and um, she gets frustrated, but she doesn't get frustrated at him, which I love is the distinction that she
Yes.
gets frustrated with him as a fellow
Mhm.
superhero who is also going, oh man, I can't even have a date. Just like he's thinking, oh man, I can't even have a date. So they're on the same page, they're on the same
Mhm.
wavelength, and she's not going to give him any grief for it. She even says, are you sure? Like, do you want to go off? Like she gets it. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful parallel with like the opening of the episode with Rex and Ray when like, Ray's frustrated at the situation, not at like the fact
Mm,
of like, it's not Rex's fault or it's not like them being superhero. It's just the fact that, oh fuck, something else has happened. We
yeah.
have to go and deal with that. We have to drop our human life to go and deal with that. And like, of course, like they're going to deal with it because that's what they, do as like superheroes and that's who they are as people. But at the same time, like as you said perfectly there, Zach, like you highlighted it really well, where Eve's just like, look, for fuck's sake, like a portal opened right now on our second date, like right here when
Hmm.
we're about to have some like wine and food. And she says, like, I feel so comfortable with you, Mark. Like this is going really, really well. And it's exactly what you said as well. Like where with Amber, Mark could only give so much of himself, and there was always that big section where he had to hold back because he just couldn't.
Yeah.
Whereas with Eve, he can fully go in, and that's the difference here, where like he doesn't have to compensate for Eve, he doesn't have to do any of that. Like he can just fully go in, as you said. Like they're in Paris now, they're not in fake Paris because she can just match him at his level, and that's what I really like about this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the portal opens. In come Fight Master and Dropkick, two of the
That's what
best
their
names
names are.
ever.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean later on in my notes it's just F and D. So if I
I
say
just
F
have
and
the
D, you know who I'm
twins.
talking about.
Yeah.
Fair. But yeah, they come in. So basically, if you remember, like last time we saw these guys, they obviously stole the Declaration of Independence. But yeah, so they appear and they say to Invincible, "We need you to come with us right the hell now." Obviously, Mark explains who they are to Eve, and like at first he's a bit like, "Nah, like I'm not going. Like I'm not having this. Like like I'm here on my date. I don't want anything to do with this. Like you guys stole the Declaration of Independence." And they explain like, "Look, we're from the future. We need your help to overthrow the king, like from our future." Mark's clearly not interested. And I love this line from Fight Master when he's like, "Well, I guess you're not the hero we thought you were." And Mark's like, "I guess not." And then he's like, "I
Yeah.
really thought that line would work." It's just,
So the next
was
plan is
cool.
just let's kidnap him. We'll just take him.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that when Mark goes back to the table and tries to carry on, and they're just like, boom, and just grab him from the table and go through the portal. Um, but yeah, so when they get through the portal, where do they end up, Zach?
They end up in the future. This is a version of the future where it's apocalyptic.
Yeah.
The immortal has taken over because he was elected king, I guess. Is he was elected king of the world, so that everybody could get along, and then he sort of went mad with power. And I do love when they're telling the story that it's like because sometimes you can tell when the animators don't really have time or budget to put all of their animation into one scene. And so they do things
Yeah.
like this that really work
Mhm.
because it looks very old school comic booky. It's not
Yes.
super detailed, but it looks fabulous still. It looks fantastic and it
Yeah.
matches what is going on, which is somebody telling a story of the past. And it also like kind of makes me understand why they took the Declaration of Independence because if they have a bunch of people who are like they probably have resistance groups of these, of humanity and these people who are plotting to rise up against the immortal and they have plans of getting the immortal out and they know that civilization is going to need to rebuild and well
Mhm.
they probably don't have their own declaration of independence anymore and so they need this one to sort of like remind the people hey this is like these are the rules that sort of like governed our society way back when. We can do this again. I
Yeah.
like all of these little connects. They make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love this. Like, I love when you get like it's almost like a fable, like within like a story that you're watching. So like when this stuff happens, where it's like, oh, long ago, and like it's not just we don't need a whole episode on this. It's just like a condensed version, which really
Mhm.
gets the point across. And I believe they even say like later on, like we find out it's actually Mark who said to the immortal, like, I want you to stay, like while
Yeah.
I leave this place, and which is why he's so like, oh my God, Mark, you're back. But yeah, I love all of this. Like, I love as well like the randomness of like, oh, we heard that there's a legend that the ink in the Declaration of Independence could like hurt him. Turns out it was bullshit, but that's why we stole it. But as well, like the Declaration of Independence is like a big like legislative law where like
Yeah.
we need law in this like lawly place like right now. But I love the way it was set up when you were watching it, before you knew it was immortal, it looked like it was a Viltrumite. And straight away you're thinking, oh, like, is this another version of Omniman? Is this like another Viltrumite we haven't seen? And then when we get the big reveal, it's immortal. I was like, oh shit, like that's really cool because it's another character that we
Yeah.
know, but it's a different version of him again, and like a really weakened kind of like a bit of a pathetic, but also just like so much is hung on his head that he's just like had enough and he's
Because I
just
mean,
done.
it makes sense too. Like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
alive for so damn long that you have to go crazy at some point, right? Like so much is going to happen
Mhm.
to you, and there will be things that break you along the way. It won't be one singular thing that breaks you, but a bunch of little
Right.
things that stack up, and eventually there'll just be one more thing, and then that's it. And he's gotten to that point. It's
Exactly.
fucking stupid though that he's like waiting around for somebody to take him out instead of just stepping down or going somewhere else.
Right. Or just, yeah, like literally that, or even just like slicing his own head off or something.
Do
Like just
something,
to
man,
like,
right? Like nobody
yeah,
here is going to
right.
be able to do that shit for you. But Mark also sees a version of himself when he's like trying to get rid of his or stow
Yes.
his clothes away, and another version of himself that
Hmm.
seems more downcast, takes his clothes away, and
Hmm.
so Mark has now seen a version of Eve in the future and a version of himself in the future. They have
Hmm.
to have known each other, right? These two, like, there's
Oh, I
something
think
there.
so. Yeah. But I do love that callback to like when we see that version of Mark when he just pops in, he's like, hey, takes the clothing away from him, and like each like, oh, like you looked really depressed, like this future version of
Yeah.
me. But I love the callback to that later on in the episode. I thought that was really clever and like a nice in joke with time travel and how nuts it can be sometimes,
Hmm.
and how normally it is like such a serious path of like or time traveling, the consequences of messing with time, and this was just like a stupid little joke which paid off in this episode, but I really liked it for
Yeah.
that. Plus as well, like just to see the effects of how this affects Mark in real time before he even knows how it's going to affect him is a really cool story like dynamic as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, so obviously he's still with DNF. Let's go with that. They obviously call down the Terminators. Let's go with that, which is like the Royal Guard
Yeah.
essentially. Mark straight away like kills them all. Like, no wait, we want to get captured because that will take you to our king. Like, all right, okay. So then obviously the robots scan them. They're like, yep, we'll take you to the king. Like, Invincible, we've been waiting for you, is what they say. And obviously they take him to the king's tower. Dropkick and Fightmaster, they're taken in one direction to be executed, whereas Mark is taken in another direction. And
Mm.
they say to him, look, no, like, don't come from us. We'll sort ourselves out. You just go. So it's important that you're the only one that can take him
They're
out.
little tricksters. They can get out of it. They're
Yeah.
tricky. They're sly. And
Yeah, exactly. You can get out of any little trap that they're in. And they do, to be fair, they do.
mhm.
But yeah, and obviously they go up to the king's tower. They obviously Mark meets him. He's like, immortal? And like straight away he's like, only one man alive knows me by thy name. Is it really you? Title card. And like Zach and I were texting before this about like the title cards. And what I really like about this season is like this title card is like the Viltrumite costume colors, which I thought was really cool. And
Yeah.
like we're getting this all the time where it's like, episode one was Mark's colors. And then like we had his new like outfit. We kind of had like Oliver's colors in episode three. And now we've got the Viltrumite. So I like that we're getting this. It's
Which
in
ties better to the end of the episode as well when we get Nolan back.
Exactly. It's always like a little bit of a glimpse into like the future of what's
Hmm.
coming. And it's like the way it glitches in as well. We are dealing with like time difference here as well. So it's really cool. Like I like it. But yeah, still, you're gonna take a lot to beat season one with the blood splatter, man. That's where it was at. But yeah. So obviously, as we said, like Immortal is pleased to see Mark. He says like, "Oh, like you left with your family, you left me in charge. Like this, I've basically been sick of this, and the reason why I started to like do all of this, where like I locked humanity down, and like I made these mandatory work camps, and like all of this was to try and get your attention to come back, just to end me because this is too much for me. Like I've had enough." Um, it's too much responsibility for me. I like as well that Mark tries to like reference what he knows. He's like, well, what about Kate? And like he's like he's outlived all of his wives as
Yeah.
well. So there's like so much trauma that the immortal like in this time the immortal has had to process, probably more than what he's ever done in any time period that he's lived through.
It is just going to create a madman, you know?
Yeah.
It happens with
And
all the
that's what we got.
vampires and vampire shows and stuff. They always end up going crazy at some point the longer they've been alive.
Right, literally. And we see that all the time. Yeah, man. Just fuck. Like, it comes with a lot of perks of like being able to live for that long and seeing different things, but also the shit that you see as well and how long
Yeah.
that lives
I
with
mean,
you,
how many
man.
civilizations do you see rise and fall? And you do make relationships with people and you do have attachments to people. And as much as Omni-Man said that he didn't, he did. I mean, we even hear it,
Mhm.
towards the end of this episode. And so that has to be really difficult to see, you know, the rise and fall of so many different lifetimes that you're going to live through. And I mean, we don't know how he became the immortal, right? He was just the
No.
immortal. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know if that ever comes up in the comics? If we get like an origin for
Nothing
that?
that nothing that I've read so
Hmm.
far, but I'm hoping that we get. It'd be cool to see more of it because his backstory always sounds really cool to me, being
Yeah.
like Abraham Lincoln and like just all of that. Like, what's cool about the Immortal is he's seen people make the same mistakes through history again and again and again. So
Yeah.
as you said, he's like seen the rise and fall of humanity, probably seen the same mistakes made over and over. And like even in like when he meets people and meets new people, he probably sees like, similar characteristics in people again. And he's like, oh man, like I have to get through this part to get to the good stuff. And like he's probably seen so much and learned so much
Mhm.
that like that's why he's a great ally and a great resource for Cecil because he's like so much more switched on. And when Cecil and Mark had that big spat, it made sense as to why he was on Cecil's level immediately because he's lived 1,000 lives
Yeah.
of this. So he just gets it more. So yeah, we get a quick little flash of like DNF are basically fighting the robots. So they fight and they do actually manage to get out of their grip. And then Immortal basically just asks Mark to kill him. He says, look, just like help humanity rise again, but kill me. Just take me out
So
and that will help you rise again.
stupid. So stupid. Handle this yourself because he's like a king cannot fall on his own. Fuck you, man. Fuck you. And this is like
Yeah.
really does add credit to what Mark is feeling because Mark does feel like the weight of like all these responsibilities keep falling on him. And he's not asking
Mhm.
for it. It just keeps happening. And this is another example of
Yes.
like, why am I being pulled to the future to handle this isn't even my version of life, right? Like there is a version of me here
Right.
already who could handle this. Why am I dealing with this? Why is this another time period now being my coming down to being my responsibility as well? And he
Mhm.
eventually has to handle it, and it is weighing down on him. All of this is going to come to a head, and he's gonna have a fucking breakdown, man.
Yeah, man. And like the difference there is that the immortal like shouldered all of this responsibility himself, like and that a lot of that was by choice, whereas like Mark is like still leaning on his family around him. Like, he's still leaning on Debbie and like, still talks to his other superhero friends, which yes, fair enough, he's got them around him, but like, he is going to people and talking to people. So like he talks to Eve, he talks to his mother, like when him and Cecil were on good terms, like he would go to Cecil and talk to him,
Yeah.
he would talk to his dad, like before all shit broke off. So yeah, like Mark is actively choosing. He does have the weight of several worlds, like in several times on his
So
shoulders
stupid.
now.
Being brought to the bug
Yeah, I
world,
know.
being brought to the future, being brought to like here, there, and fucking everywhere, man. Like he doesn't even I don't even know how he's still enrolled in school because he has no time. He,
No.
this is yeah, I don't know.
Like one of them essays, like I went to a bug world. Like, she said, what is he writing about? He ain't got time to think about anything else right now. Like, it's like, what, history? Like I'm dealing with the future. Like, what's going on? Um, right. So yeah. So then obviously, him and Immortal get into a fight and he's like blaming Mark. He's saying like, you made me like this and I was like this because of you, blah, 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 blah. Then DNF appear and then Immortal obviously sees them and he's like, if I go for them, that's what will trigger Mark and that's what will get him. So obviously he goes to fight them. Obviously they kind of dodge out the way. Mark obviously comes to fight Immortal to protect them. And I like when he's punching his face and then he's just like, oh, this is the only way. And this
This
is
is what
pretty
I have to
brutal for
do.
Mark.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy. We got a lot of like gnarly stuff in this. A lot of like really gruesome deaths in this one. But this is like This is, I like this example of like, because we in the past episodes have been told that, well, sometimes you do have to be morally gray. And Mark is kind of like resisting that. And then it does come to a decision where he has to do that, right? Like Oliver did it in the last
Yeah.
episode. And even though I think Oliver's more on the dark side than morally gray, I think
Yes.
he's going towards more the dark side. This is one of those instances that Mark has to make a decision that is because this man ain't gonna stop. And this man is like hell bent on like proving a point.
Hmm.
And so he knows that he has to do this. And fucking like weighs down on him, man. Like right, like it's like draining the energy out of him, and I just feel so bad for him. I wish everybody'd leave him alone. He needs a nice week-long vacation, just a week where nobody can find him, nobody can
Yeah.
ping him.
Right. He needs to go to his gears. He needs to have like time off with Rick and William and just go and have a spa weekend, just chill out, like go and have some fun with them. Honestly, that's what he needs right now. None of this shit. Like, pull my head off, Mark. Like, he doesn't need any of that right now. Um, but yeah, but I do like, I mean, this is brutal, right? Like where he
Hmm.
literally rips his head off. And like, even like D and F are shocked, but they thank Mark. And I like that Mark says, look, don't thank me. Like, do not thank me for
Yeah.
that. And they're like, oh well, he's justifying it. He's like, oh well, it's what he wanted. It's not a reason to kill someone, but it's what he wanted. And like DNF say, oh well, he killed a lot of people, and then Mark says, but he saved a lot of people
But
too.
I don't care. See, this is where I fall on that. Is that I think the amount of people that he hurt and enslaved far outweighs any good that he did. You can do good in
Mhm.
life, but the moment that you start putting other people in harm's way and like really causing destruction like that, then it just wouldn't be that difficult for me. I would have taken him out. I would have seen what he did to the world
Mhm.
and given him exactly what he wanted without any sort of trying to coerce him into sticking around. Also, this man has died a lot before, right? Like I get the idea that he's
Yes.
died a lot before. So what makes this death a different death? How would he even stay dead? Because somebody's gonna stitch him back up and he's gonna open his eyes again.
It's literally like the judge from like Buffy when they're like bringing all of his body parts in different boxes and put them back together and like blow him up with a rocket launcher. It's like that whole thing. And like obviously Mark does say later on, like, oh, like, make sure you keep his body parts apart, like
Yeah.
separate to stop him from coming back together to like, coming back. But this is Mark essentially like him in saying that line as well, like, oh, he saved a lot of people too. Totally get what you mean, Zach. Like at the end of the day, if you've killed a lot of people, you've
Hmm.
saved some people, what's going to stop you from killing a lot of people again? Like it's in you. Like, you can easily do it
I mean,
again.
Mr. Adolf, I'm sure, did some real nice things for people when he was
Yeah.
younger. There's probably people who definitely liked him because he was nice to them, right? But then look what
Hmm.
he did, right? Like, and I think that far outweighs him being nice to a few people over here. It's like
Right.
it doesn't matter if you did a nice thing because what is your legacy? Your legacy is Mr. Immortal, this world that you've created now. So, Mark, I wish he wouldn't take it as hard. I wish he would just kind of like accept it and move along.
Yeah.
It needed
But
to
I
be done.
guess, yeah. But I guess as well, like the thing is, like, this is Mark, like, and again, this is what I meant, like, at the opening of the episode when we were talking, like, this is laboring the point of like Mark finally learning Cecil's lesson, which is like, people are grey. Like, you are starting to say basically, you in saying that, Mark, you are saying Cecil's words here.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm hoping, like, we're not going to go through this again in episode 5. Like, right, Mark, you've got it. Go
Yeah.
back to Cecil, sort this shit out. Let's
And I
go.
don't think they will. I think he has now had to because we've been building up to his trial, right? So he's been learning this lesson and now he's having to practice this lesson, has put it into practice, and now I think those harder decisions he's gonna have to start facing those. I think that's where they're gonna start bringing in the harder decisions that all of this
Mhm.
has led up to. So I have faith in them. I think that they're getting there now.
Oh, 100%. Like, yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, it's a nitpick because I
Yeah.
absolutely love this
No,
show.
I feel you though. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like the writing is so strong. The character development is incredible in this show. For all that we've had 4 episodes, like the complete direction of this show has changed dramatically from episode 2. So like I'm really loving this. And I love that we got this as well, just like another time zone, but with a difference, like a meaningful one of something else that's happening. But I'm ready for Mark just to like, right, I've got it, I'm on it. Because,
Yeah.
we see the weight of consequences all the time through this show, and we're seeing it again. So I'm hoping that, right,
And I wonder if it's
next
going to
episode.
be his brother that he's going to have to make that really difficult decision with and just deciding if he's going to have to kill his brother. And I don't think it'll be like
Mm.
child brother, he's not going to be a kid, but he'll be like grown up. He'll be like a teenager or something.
Right. Mm.
But he will have done some bad shit and Mark is going to have to make the decision that you know, he did do it. He did all this stuff. He's still doing it. He's
Yep.
not seeming to back down. So do we kill him? Yeah, probably gonna have to
Yeah.
kill him. I think that's where we're headed.
That's going to be the biggest thing. Like,
Hmm.
that's absolutely like, what does Mark do with this kid? Because, he's known Oliver, like, he's raised him with his mother, blah, 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 blah. And, like, he's going to have to make a big decision there. And I think, like, Omniman coming down, yeah, fair enough. There'll be something that happens there between, but he's going to be the deciding factor. And what Mark decides to do there, it's going to be for the greater good. That's what you've got to keep in your mind at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah.
it's like Cecil's words again, coming back. But I'm excited when it gets to that point. I know that we are going to build up to that and ramp up to that, which I'm excited about. But yeah, so then Mark does mention that about keeping the body parts apart. The robots come, basically confirm that the power is returning to the people, so it's what Immortal said would happen. And I do like this when like Mark says like, right, can you take me home? And they're like, oh, there's just one more thing we need to do. And then you see like Mark, it's that Mark that goes into the past and like
Hmm.
grabs his clothing. He's like, oh yeah, that's me, and like that's him weighing the
Yeah.
choices of this now. And I thought that was really cool. I liked it. It made me laugh my ass off actually when it happened. Um, and I like this when, they do return him to Eve, and obviously Eve's still sitting there at the table. And like Mark's absolutely gutted. Like he's gutted at this point. Like he's like, oh my God. Like again, I just wanted to like the only decision I wanted to make is what I wanted to order. And
Yeah.
now I've had to make this whole moral decision like in another time.
Now
Like
I've
what?
returned to this
What?
dinner date in poor spirits, but I do love that
Yes.
this then sets up the again. Eve is like so comforting with him because she
Yes.
understands because she's able to understand. Amber would have given him a little bit of a hard time. Well, you left me.
Mm.
You promised you weren't going to leave on this date. Eve is like, "You're good. You're fine. I flew off over here for a second. I'm back. Figured you'd come
Hmm.
back." And then we get this really great montage of them doing all the shit
Oh,
that a superhero couple gets to do. They get to
yes.
see the pyramids in Egypt. They get to go and
Hmm.
see all these mountains. I don't know which mountains they were, but they was watching mountains. They were watching the Northern
Beautiful mountains.
Lights. It was they get to do all the good stuff, and I love that little montage.
Yeah, I did. And I like as well, like when they're talking before they go and see that, when like, Eve is like, she gets through to him in a way that
Mhm.
like Amber never could because
Yeah.
she's talking to him as a girlfriend and as a superhero. And I like when she says as well, like, look, like, I'll still kick your ass if you ever become like a giant world conquering dick and you should do the same to me. And
Yeah.
like, she's really emphasizing a really important point, but in such a cool, straightforward,
Yeah.
I'm joking, taking the piss out of you way, but it's the best way. Like, and that's what Mark needed at that point because it
Well,
just brought him his spirits back up.
Mark also doesn't is just now starting to understand that Eve is like kind of on his level and is not going to give him shit the way that
Yeah.
Amber was giving him shit because he's still like even up till now is very like apologetic when he does have to miss something if he's late. He's like very apologetic because his experience with Amber was, well, I'm gonna get chewed out for this one, but Eve's not going to chew him out for
Mm,
this. They're good. They're good. They're
no.
solid. I do suspect like problems will arise. We need the drama. Something will happen, but
Yeah,
I think it'll
I
be in a
know.
different way. Than I don't want anybody giving Mark shit for for what he has to do. Right. I don't want
Right.
any relationship that is going to give him shit for saving the world.
Right. Because I mean, put yourself in Mark's shoes for like 5 minutes
Hmm.
and then give him shit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like this boy's got the weight of everything on his shoulders right now. So like, just back off a little
Yeah.
bit. Um, but yeah, but I do, yeah. I love this. Like I loved the whole date. I thought it was really cute, like them flying around. I love like the flashes as well, like, interwoven with like clips from seasons 1 and 2 and like they were just friends working alongside
Yeah.
each other. And then now how far they've come. Like, yeah, I love it. It's very cute and just they get each other. I love to see it. They
Hmm.
get each other in a way, and this friendship makes sense in a way that him and Amber never could. But yeah, and then they say the big L word as well. They say "I love you" to each other, which was a big step.
Sure.
And I like as well, like we get just this moment of brief happiness where it's like end, and you think, wait, what?
Yeah.
And it's like it's nice. It's just like kind of cementing, like, oh, this was like the nice section. They're all good here, but then obviously we come straight
This
back.
is what I like about this show too, is that in one episode we can kind of
Yes.
get 2 episodes. That they're not going to. I
Hmm.
trust the writers not to overextend the plot just because, oh, we got to meet a certain amount of minutes, and so let's have Mark doing this. Let's have Mark doing this. Let's like Mark's story is kind of wrapped up already here
Hmm.
for this episode, so we're gonna check in over with Alan. And
Yeah.
great, fine. I'm okay with that, but don't make me watch Mark for another 20 minutes if we're kind of wrapped up his story for the episode.
Right. Yeah, yeah, no, I agree, and like I love this throwback as well to like the last season of what this is what they did with the Allen episode, right? Where
Mhm.
it's like, oh, these two are going to start fucking, so let's pull away from them for a second and let's go somewhere else. And like, it's the same narrator voice again, which I think is really funny. But yeah, obviously, so Mark and Eve obviously start to fuck, and like I love like the narrator's like, well, let's move away from them and let's go up to remember the prison, the Viltrumite prison. Well, let's check in with Omniman and Allen. And I like all of this. Like I love
Mhm.
when two characters like this, who are like polar opposites in many ways, are put together and then make a friendship out of it. So like, Alan would annoy the fuck out of Omni-Man normally. And like that's kind of what we get like at the start. But then like Omni-Man really starts to think, no, actually, this guy's like wants to do good. And like this guy's grown on me a bit, which is absolutely what we see.
Yeah.
But as well, how strong Alan is. My baby boy Alan. Like I always love to see him come back. He's one of the best.
He is. He truly is. I love Ellen. Can't stand. I'm still not Team Nolan yet. Like Nolan
Yeah.
has done so much dirt and like he's been so dirty, such a dirty dog in my eyes that I'm fucking over him. And when he says, so they're like, we're getting filled in a little bit on their time together, being held
Yeah.
captive, and they communicate via telepathy, and um,
Mhm.
so they're waiting until Nolan is healed before they execute him, right? And then they're also trying to
Yeah.
figure out how they're going to execute Alan because they keep trying
Yeah.
everything, and Alan is just
Yeah.
indestructible. But I fucking
Right.
hate Nolan saying, I think I miss my wife. I'm like, first off, which fucking one? And second, I don't want to hear
Yes.
shit from you. I don't want to hear any of this from you. I don't want to. You better not keep Debbie's name out your motherfucking mouth. I don't ever want to see you in the same room as Debbie again. And I know it's coming, and he's gonna end up in that living room, and Debbie's gonna have to face him. And I hope Debbie just it's not gonna hurt him, but I hope she has a gun in her drawer that she pulls out and just immediately starts firing on him, right? Because she deserves to get her
Yes.
licks in.
Or like I hope like even like Debbie's new man Paul tells Nolan to fuck off. Like that would be
Something, anything.
everything. Like, yeah, you
Fucking
need to
hate
because
this
like
man.
you're absolutely right though. I know like the guy that turned around and said, "Oh, I see my wife more as a pet," and like
Exactly. You don't get more disrespectful than that. Especially, I
no,
don't think so. I don't think you
especially
can
not to
be redeemed
Debbie.
in my eyes. That's the thing. Is like, I'm very easily
Mm,
susceptible to a redemption arc, but
mhm.
it's just not working for me with him. He did all of that stuff in season one. Then season two, we find out that like not a few months later, he's got a new bug wife and a new baby, and is tongue kissing hit her in front of Mark. Um,
Yes.
like disrespect on so many levels that I do not. You can, as hot as you are, Mr. Omni Man, I fucking hate your ass.
Mm, yeah. I mean, just to be honest, it's the silver hair and the mustache. I'm just like, okay, Omni-Man, let's
He's
go.
gorgeous,
But
yes,
like,
nice to see
yeah,
on screen,
beautiful.
but fucking hate that character.
Absolutely, like that voice as well. But yeah, like there's so much you've treated so many people like shit that
Mhm.
like it doesn't matter what you do at this point. Like you basically wiped out half of the earth. You've killed so many other people on planets. Like, you've got a lot going on here, Nolan. Like seriously, and then you can't come groveling back to Debbie. She's got every right to tell you where to fucking
Yeah.
go. And yeah, and obviously your other wife's dead. Like, are you still talking about her? Do you still care about them? Who the fuck knows? But I will say, like them two together, Alan and Omni-Man, I do
Mhm.
like as a pair. I just think because they're so opposite, and Alan makes it, like he
Yeah.
warms the situation, which I love. But yeah, I love all of this. What you were saying, Zach, when like they try and fire like the laser at him, and it just bounces off and wipes out some of the alien guards of the room, and he's like, "Well, whoops." And like all of this, like they basically figure out like he can't die, like they
Yeah.
can't kill Alan. But then this, like, so obviously the Viltrumite executioners turn up for Nolan. They drag him away. He says goodbye to Alan. Obviously, Alan breaks free to go and save Nolan. Now, I fucking love this.
Yeah.
Like, I love seeing this. So,
It's
like,
good
we see Nolan
stuff.
being beaten by the Viltrumites. Yeah, they're reading like his crimes to him, and like Alan heads out. Like wipes out basically the alien guards, and he lets the other prisoners go. And then,
I love Battle Beast. I love this character, and I hope this. So what I'm assuming is happening here is like I'm connecting all of these little pieces that they're setting up for us now, right? Like we learn later sort of the secret that Nolan's been holding about the Viltrumites, but also we know that Battle Beast is one of those beings that is there. He's an example that there are beings out in the universe that can stand up to Viltrumites and have a
Yeah.
similar like Viltrumites might just be a little bit more up here, but Battle Beast is still here and can take on a Viltrumite.
Oh
So
yeah.
what I'm guessing is we're going to be doing is gathering different beings from a little bit of here, there, and everywhere that can stand up to Viltrumites, and we're going to create this little army. And I love Battle
Mhm.
Beast. I want him to be part of that army. I want him to be in the fold, be friendly with everybody, be that sort of like that friendly character that's also like shitting on everybody, you know, shitting on Invincible
Mhm.
and but still like fighting alongside them because I do this is one of my
Mhm.
favorite like top 5 characters, I think, Battle Beast.
Yeah. Battle Beast is a fan favorite. So like you can get t-shirts with Battle Beast on and
Mhm.
everything like that. Like he's got his own like small comic run as well, Battle Beast. He's a big character. And you
Yeah.
remember back in like season 1 when you had like the original Machine Head before Titan took over as like the crime underlord, whatever. He had Battle Beast like on his team and like Mark went in to try and fight like with Titan and Battle Beast like nearly killed Mark. Like he was like
Yeah.
whacking his chest with his hammer and like nearly killed him. But yeah, Battle Beast is such a cool character. Like, I like gasped because I forgot like about this to be honest. So like when the door opened and you heard his voice, I was like, shit, yes, here we go. Um, but yeah, I loved this. So when like, obviously Mark and like Battle Beast says to him like, oh, have you got some Viltrumites for me to kill? And he's like, in fact, actually, yeah, I do. Come with me. So obviously they're going towards try and find Nolan. They're wiping out a few of the guards on the way. And obviously, Nolan's literally about to be beheaded. Like,
Yeah.
he's like this close to being beheaded. And like even the guard says to him, any last words? And then when Alan and Battle Beast just break in and just start fight, like beating seven shades of shit out of the Viltrumites, I just loved it.
Mhm.
And it's so good to see. Just like, because the Viltrumites for so long have just been this army of like unstoppable beings that nobody can stand up to. And like, yes, we've seen Mark fight them. Yes, we saw Nolan fight them in season 2. But like when Anissa came down, she
Mhm.
like threw Mark all over and they had nothing to stop her. Like when Natalie and Bruglia came down in last season, they had nothing to stop her, right?
And you bring
Whereas
Battle
this, it's
Beast
like,
in, and he just Battle Beast
yeah,
don't care about anything but one. This man wants to fight. This bitch is only care being his only care in the world is to find an opponent and to fight them. And
yes.
I love that. I love that
And
he's like chaotic and messy, and it doesn't matter who. It's just he wants a very strong opponent. And he gets 3 Viltrumites, so it's very nice to see.
mhm. Plus, like, I love the way he looks. It's like this
Mhm.
lion beast type
It's
guy. Like, he's got a
cool.
really cool look. Yeah, yeah, with like his plaited hair and everything. Like, he's a cool looking character. But obviously, Alan starts to, he gets beaten down by one of the Viltrumites. But like, I knew in my mind what he was
Yeah.
doing here. Like, he's making it look like he's going to be killed. Obviously, we've seen how strong Alan is, so it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
And obviously, that's the point of when Nolan looks over and he's like, I'm not going to let this happen. And obviously, breaks out of his cuffs and saves Alan. And he says, oh, I knew you had it in you, and that's confirmation of like, come on, Nolan. Like, I've been trying to get you to do this the whole
Yeah.
time. And here we go. We're on the same page now. So obviously we had the big fight here when, I love when Alan shoves the head of one of the alien guards like out of the wall and like continues fighting.
Yeah.
And then like again, he's like, oh, and like very quickly saying to Nolan, he's like, do you think Battle Beast will be all right in space? And he's like, what do you mean? Yeah, I think he'll be
They'll
okay. I
be
think he'll be
fine.
okay.
Yeah, he'll
And then
pop
like just
back up.
tears
We're gonna
open
get him
the,
back
yeah,
later.
he'll be okay. And then obviously blasts open like a hole in the wall and they all get sucked out. And yeah, they all get sucked out into space. And I love like, even though it's like Alan Nolan against one Viltrumite and then Battle Beast is fighting the other one, and
Oh
they
yeah.
just drift off into space.
We don't even need to see it. I know the outcome. Like, yeah, he's gonna win. I love Alan and Nolan teaming up against this one Viltrumite. The fight
Same.
is really cool, and then the finale to that fight is fucking it is like
Yes.
one of the best kills in the series so far. It was pretty hardcore.
Yeah, and it's just because it's so like well earned and it's like
Mhm.
justice because we've seen how deadly the Viltrumites are and we've seen them do this to other people that didn't deserve it or couldn't put up a fight. So to see like people like that or like aliens like that are so strong that are normally just like cutting people's heads off or whatever, for them both to put their fists together and like punch, literally squash his head like that, full on Game of Thrones style, was so satisfying.
It was good. It was good.
Yeah, no, I fucking loved it. I loved it. I like as well, like Alan's like joking with him, like confirming, like, oh, we're friends now. And like, like basically saying like, look, you can join our cause now. You can join the coalition. Because remember, like Alan was working with that other
Hmm.
older Viltrumite as well, which was still mystery surrounding him as to like his background and what made him change. So he's like confirming, look, like now you can join us. Like we can stand a chance. And then obviously Nolan drops that little bit of something like that hidden secret, right? When he says there are fewer than 50 pure blood Viltrumites left in the universe. This is the Empire's most closely guarded secret. It's also why we can beat them. And straight away it's like, right,
That's a
Nolan's like on the
huge
same page
drop
now.
too. That's a real big like
Yeah.
piece of information that we needed to hear, and I they need to go ahead and bring that piece of information back to Mark because it'll make him feel a lot better. Because
Yep.
so then I guess it was 51, 52, 53 before
Mm.
this fight started. And now they're three down because we've been losing a lot in the last like I don't know,
Yeah.
the last 15 episodes we've lost a few Viltrumites already. So
Hmm.
it makes sense why that station is not more closely guarded by more
Yeah.
Viltrumites and that there's only three of them there and they have random aliens there to fight. Because
Right.
I mean that's
Hmm.
good. That's real good. So they're gonna find. I guess
Yeah.
we're gonna go out. We're gonna find half bloods to fight against these Viltrumites, and I don't know. We stand a chance now.
Hmm. And that probably makes sense why in season two, like I think it was called General Craig, like the guy that spoke to Mark, like after knowing
Yeah.
that his back broken, and he said to him, "Look, this is your mission. I'm giving you a mission now. Get the planet ready because if you don't, we'll come down and take it anyway, and we'll kill you." So
Hmm.
like he didn't have to say that to Mark, So like, but yeah, their numbers are starting to dwindle, and that's what I mean. It's nice to see like this unstoppable force. Like, oh,
Hmm.
actually, hold on, there's a chink in the armor. Like we can get through this.
Yeah.
And this is like it's raising the stakes again on this other thing that's been happening over here for so long. It's raising those stakes, but also it's good for Mark to know that information. It's good for Cecil to know that information as well, which I'm sure when he finds out, he'll be like, all right, shit, okay, now I've got an idea of what we're going to be up against. So we might be all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm excited. It's like got me excited and pumped. But
It
I did
does.
love
I'm
all of
excited
this. I love seeing,
to start like building up to
yeah.
that battle because I can't wait till that battle comes.
I know, and just to see like like Alan fighting and like it's just like a big fight of like all of them teamed up against the Viltrumites is going to be so fucking badass. Because every time we've had a fight with the Viltrumites in the past, it's always been so good, right? Remember like the woman with the long
I
hair, like the
know.
whip hair, like that
I
was such a
missed
cool
her.
fight as
Miss
well.
her.
Like so,
She
I'm
deserved to be
excited
part
for
of
it.
this bot too. Hopefully they put her back together. Maybe
Bring
she's like
back,
she's immortal too.
yes. Bring back Willow Smith whipping her hair back and forth. Let's go. Like, yeah, it was so fucking cool, man. But yeah, so obviously the narrator comes back in. He's like, all right, let me take you back now, like post fuck to these two where I can show you them. And like I like this. Like I like after all of this like big fight and battle and everything, we come back to them two. They're just like cuddling in bed essentially. Debbie's like knocking on the door, and Mark's like basically humoring her, just
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, like I'm not ready. That's why the door's locked." And Eve's just like laughing about the whole situation. And like, Mark says like as well, oh, we should hit the end, Zach. So
Yeah.
yeah, like what were your overall thoughts on this episode? And then what would you give it out of 10?
I out of 10 probably like a 7.5 out of 10. I'm a little like worn out with traveling to different dimensions and different time periods. So I need more to happen like in
Mm,
like our world. I think I liked episode three a lot more than this one, but I did still very much enjoy this one. And
mhm.
I do think that drop that there are about 50 Viltrumites left. I think that was like that was a huge piece of information that has me like really juiced. So I did really,
Yeah.
really enjoy the episode.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I loved it just because, like, this is the first time when, like, I think, we've had like these little seeds dropped all the way through the
Mm,
show so far. When, like, Nolan's like, "Oh, read my books, Mark. Like, there's hidden details in there as how you can stop the Viltrumites, and it talks about different weapons and things like that." And we've had Alan as well, who's like super powered now. He's working with the coalition, so like, we've had all of these things. It's like moving the pieces into place, but this is the first episode where I feel like they're in place, and we're starting to jump off from that now. So when the Viltrumites do come, like they're going to stand more of a chance because they've got shit ready,
yeah.
So that's what I like about this so much. But yeah, like little things. Like I like to see like Mark and Eve, like they're kind
Yeah.
of for all that, their second date was ruined to fuck. Like I like that even after that, we still got this big date and like their dynamics completely.
This was a really good episode for them as a couple.
Yes. Yeah, like that relationship is developed in a really positive way, not like, Mark isn't worrying about her and like, worrying about her finding something out or like how he's going to be able to protect her or anything like that. He's able just to enjoy her as a girlfriend and not as somebody he needs to save like he did with Amber.
Mm.
You know, so I like that. But as well, like, yeah, like just jumping off the back of like episode 3, like all of this coming together where like still at the back of Mark's mind, he's like, fuck, I've got this little demon child to deal with as well. Like, the hell am I going to do about Oliver as well? Like, if he wants to kill anyone, like a kid in the playground who like steals something from, dead.
He will too. It's coming. Some shit's gonna happen like that.
Yeah, exactly. And like, there's so much Debbie can do, but like, as we saw, put him in a position of when he can kill somebody, they're dead. Muller's dead. But yeah, I had 8.5 out of 10 for this one for me. I really, really liked it. But yeah, like the big thing for me as well, like it's similar to you, Zach. Like season 2, we had like a lot of jumping around different zones. Like the last episode was let down a little bit for me because we kept jumping to different time zones, which were really insignificant in the end because all it led up to was a fight with Angstrom, which who the fuck cares? What do you think of Angstrom coming back?
Is he back? Is that him? Because I recognized his
Yeah.
voice, but I wasn't sure
That
if
was-
that was. So he's the one that's been watching Mark then.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, he's pretty hardcore. He did like really fuck up Debbie, you know. So
Yeah.
he is a baddie.
Mhm.
I guess I'll just have to see what they do with him. You know,
I
no
know.
judgment on that yet.
For me, I'm like, you know, my eyes are so set on the Viltrumites and everything, the big fight happening here that like Angstrom over here. Like,
I'm
like,
ready
whatever,
for
like,
this Viltrumite fight, man. I'm ready for some more
Yes.
Viltrumite like battle. I think that is what hooked me from season 1 so quickly was
Yep.
the whole Viltrumite lore and their invasion, their impending invasion, and all of these little side quests we're doing. I'm not as interested in. So I don't know.
No, I'm super, super pumped for it. I'm ready. But no, as I say, like for me, this season is already like I'm enjoying it a lot more than season 2. I'm just like so much more into like the direction they're going,
Yeah.
the kind of thematically what they're exploring as well. Like for me, it just makes a lot more sense and it just feels like more grounded in like what I love about Invincible. Like this
I agree.
show, this season is doing everything that I love about the show. So yeah, I'm super excited. But yeah, so that is our cover of Invincible season 3, episode 4, which again did have a really interesting name, which I'm totally forgetting.
About
You Were
being a
My Hero.
You are my hero. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was a cool title anyway. But yeah, let us know what you think of that title and everything else of this series. But yeah, I just want to say that's our cover of Invincible season 3, episode 4. You Were My Hero. This has been incredible. I absolutely love this show. I'm loving this season, as I've already said. And yeah, big thank you so much, Zach, for coming on and covering this episode with me. It's always fun to come on and talk Invincible with you. But yeah, honestly, I appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely. Love being here. You can find me if you search me, Zachary Patton Garcia. I'll pop up in certain places. And then, yeah, I have a podcast that I do. It's a horror podcast called My Bloody Judy that we currently are over there covering Yellow Jacket Season 3 on. So, yeah, go check that out.
There you go. Check it all out. It's all going on there. So remember that you can watch all of these episodes on YouTube as well as listen to them. So we are available on all podcast platforms. So if you do just want to listen, if you don't want to watch as well, sorry, just type in Last Week on YouTube. You will find us there. If you want to, and type Last Week on Pod on all social media, and you'll find the podcast across there. If you want to follow me, I am at Straughan87 on everything. Just type that in and you'll see my face. And remember to leave us a review and give us a 5-star rating on everything. That's all we want to see. Nothing less.
Nothing
But
else.
leave us some comments as well. Leave us some comments as well, because you can do that on Spotify. It'll be cool to read some of your thoughts on Invincible. But again, Zach, thank you so much for doing this, man. This is so cool. I appreciate you coming on, man. It's always the best time. And yeah, looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care, everyone. See you later.